Hi, my name is Lakshmi. This is my final project for the class CSCI E-90. My final project topic is AWS CloudTrail. Starting with the introduction to CloudTrail. What is CloudTrail? Well, CloudTrail is a web service that is offered by AWS, which basically records all the API calls a user can make. So as you can see in the image, the user makes API calls, and it could be on any of the growing set of services around the world, meaning like EC2, Redshift, S3, any AWS web service. And this CloudTrail, this web service offered by AWS, it records all the API calls, and it records in a form of log files, which you can use later to do various things. About the generated log files. So the recorded information includes the identity of the API caller, the time of the API call, the source IP address of the API caller, the request parameters, the response elements written by the AWS service. The log information could either be seen in S3 bucket or in a user-friendly format like the JSON format on clicking the View Event button on any event in CloudTrail console. So either it can be seen in the bucket, or in the bucket as in like the log files, or it can be seen as shown in the left image, which is in the JSON format. This you can see on the click of this View Event button in API activity history. Why is CloudTrail important? CloudTrail, as mentioned earlier, records all the AWS API calls associated with an AWS account that occurs through AWS Management Console or the CLI or SDK or the AWS SDKs. This means this records all the changes made to an AWS resource for the complete life cycle of the resource, like complete life cycle of the resource, meaning the creation, modification, start, stop, interactions, deletions, the entire life cycle of the resource. This AWS API call history produced by CloudTrail are usually used to perform security analysis, to track the resource changes in AWS, to troubleshoot operational issues, for compliance auditing. Where could the CloudTrails be used? Few possibilities and areas where CloudTrail web services are used today, like what I can think of. So the IT staff in companies using AWS services are using CloudTrail to monitor the application, like for example to get notifications on the suspicious activities. This is done simply by setting up SNS notifications for when an unwanted or specific range of IPs sends an API call, meaning someone trying to acquire, modify, create, or delete any resource. Or say the government organization using AWS, or the IT auditors and organizations with tons of governance could use this feature too. Used by DevOps engineers to troubleshoot why a specific API call appears to be failing or not behaving as expected. So these are the few areas where we can see the CloudTrails being required or used. A typical CloudTrail application overview. So this explains how it usually works, or how it usually works. So you see the API calls can be made through console or the SDKs or through CLIs, and the API calls, meaning calls to VPC or the EC2 service or RDS service, EBS, IAM, STS, Redshift, and many more, whatever are offered by AWS. So when these calls are made, the CloudTrail constantly records the activities in the log files, which can be then stored in S3 bucket, or can be subscribed, or can be subscribed to SNS topic. And you can fetch the log files or view the log files from the bucket, or you can subscribe to those topics, and you can see or monitor the log files. Okay, my final project concept. I've tried building an automation tool which records and displays the log information on creating and running an instance. I've used Eclipse project, Java program, AWS CloudTrail, of course, FQS web service, SNS web service, and S3 buckets to demo my concept. As a part of this project, I've also tried executing CLI commands to operate on CloudTrail web service. I've also developed few Python programs to pull the log files from AWS based on attribute values like event ID, event name, and a program to implement one of the CLI commands getTrail status. Last but not the least, I'll be demonstrating how to work with CloudTrail web service through the console tool, which I don't think I need to demonstrate it because it is very straightforward. I think the documentation provided by AWS are very straightforward and easy to follow, and that's what I did when I prepared this demo for you guys. Okay, let's get started with the demo. CloudTrail can be configured through CloudTrail can be configured through console or the SDKs or CLI. Configuring CloudTrail through console is the first way I'm going to demonstrate here. So you simply have to follow the instructions in AWS documentation regarding CloudTrail. I have added few references at the end of this demo. So you go to this page where you can turn on the CloudTrail and you enter your trail name, and then yes, you have to create a new S3 bucket, or you have to choose an existing bucket. A bucket is very much required to work with CloudTrail web service. So you turn on the CloudTrail and that's it. A trail will be created which collects the log files for you and puts it into the bucket which you would have either created or mentioned in the turning on CloudTrail page. As you can see, I created a bucket called LBKT, and it started recording the